class, I hope you're having a great day. Today we are going to learn about Chapter 8, Section 1. And we're going to talk about forming a new government. The first question we are going to answer is, what did the states want in a new government? So the Revolutionary War is taking place and the representatives, the delegates, are forming their own government. They decide that they want a republic. Now, a republic is a state, country, or a nation in which people elect representatives to govern. Now, the states form their own governments as well, and when creating a federal government, they look at the states to see, what do they do, and, how should we form this national government. The Continental Congress designed a plan for the new national government called the Articles of Confederation. Now, when we talk about the Articles of Confederation in this lesson, you will see I will abbreviate AOC, Articles of Confederation. So whenever you see AOC, it means Articles of Confederation. So they started planning in 1776, and the Articles of Confederation were ratified, confirmed in 1781 by 13 states. So this was the national government. There were some problems with the Articles of Confederation, including any amendment to the Articles needed all 13 states to approve, which was really hard to get. The federal government could not tax. States did not have to follow the federal laws and treaties. States had their own laws and did not have to follow another state's laws. No executive branch or national court system, so it could not even enforce the laws that it made. It could not regulate foreign or interstate trade. The national government could not raise an army, and it needed approval of 9 states to enact laws. So let's see how these weaknesses play out. So, strengths and weaknesses of Articles of Confederation. We'll start with some of the strengths. The Northwest Territory. These are lands northwest of the Appalachians. States gave this land to the federal government. But now what do they do with it? So you'll see here, we have the map of the U.S., and these lands, this is the Northwest Territory. So, Congress decides to enact the Land Ordinance of 1785. This law established a plan for dividing the federally owned lands west of the Appalachian Mountains. So this is the plan we're going to do. They take the land and they divide it into sections. They make townships. A township is 6 miles long, okay? 6 miles this way, 6 miles, it's 36 square miles. So they make a township, 6 miles by 6 miles, so 36 square miles. Then they divide that land into 1 mile sections, 1 mile squares. And there's 36 different sections. Something that's neat, they take this land and one section, they use that money and they reserve it for a school, so there's public education. So the Land Ordinance, this is how they divide the land into the townships. The Northwest Ordinance, this is a law that describes how the Northwest Territory is going to be governed. Okay, so the Northwest Territory is the Land Ordinance of 1785, this is how we're going to divide it. Northwest Ordinance, this is how we're going to govern it. And this lays the groundwork of how land is going to become a state. So they decided that if you have 5,000 free adult males who own 50 acres, they can elect an assembly to create laws for this territory, for the land. Once you had 60,000 people living in this land, then you could apply for statehood. But it would have to be approved by Congress to see if your area, if your land, would become part of the United States of America. Something else that's important about the Northwest Ordinance is that it outlawed slavery. But something to keep in mind, all this land out west, who was living there? Before the 60,000 settlers came in to apply for statehood, who was living on this land? Native Americans. And we'll see that the new government under the Articles of Confederation had issues dealing with the problems between the natives and the American settlers who are moving onto this land. Okay, so just keep in mind that there were people already living here. They had their homes established on that land. So next, problems, weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Here we're going to look at problems with Britain and Spain. With Britain, now remember this is after the Revolutionary War, they refused to evacuate their military fort south of the Great Lakes. They still wanted to be involved with the fur trade. And the U.S. didn't have a way to force them out. So the British said, nope, we're staying in our forts, even though we lost the war. And they borrowed American-owned ships from British waters in the Caribbean. So this, does not help U.S. people, with trade and what they're doing. Problems with Spain. Spain also put up barriers to American shipping in the Caribbean. They refused to allow Americans to use the Mississippi River to deposit goods in New Orleans. And Spain and the Confederation Congress, this was the U.S. national legislative body formed by the Articles of Confederation. So this was the Congress that was making the laws under the Articles of Confederation. They argued over the boundary of Florida. So the new government did not have the strength to stand up to these foreign powers. Economic problems under the Articles of Confederation. The U.S. owned money for war debt. Congress did not have the power to levy, which is collect taxes. And a lot of the debt that the U.S. owed were to the soldiers, so they could get paid for fighting in the Revolutionary War. So these angry soldiers, this led to angry soldiers protested outside of the State House where Congress was meeting in Pennsylvania, and the congressmen fled the city. They're thinking, how are we going to handle this? You have states owed war debt as well, and so they taxed the people to raise this money to pay their own war debt. The people were not happy about this at all because they didn't have money to pay these extra taxes. And you have Shays' Rebellion, which we are going to read about in our next class, and you can find it on the website as well. But this was an uprising of Massachusetts farmers who demanded debt relief, and they actually went to an arsenal as a place where weapons were stored, and they were going to march to Boston because they were fed up with all these taxes, that they thought, it was too much on them. So the U.S. government realizes that they need more power to be effective, and that the Articles of Confederation weren't really working out for them, that there was more weaknesses than strengths. So we'll learn about what they're going to do next time. Thanks for tuning in.